Serious, soldiers of Reddit who fought in Afghanistan, what preconceptions did you have that turned out to be completely wrong? I'd have to say this is not a perception but rather a culture shock. I was never part of any interrogations, but I was told that some of the Taliban we had been fighting believed we had force fields that were causing their weapons, most notably RPGs, to not hit us. It had nothing to do with skill of the user or the weapon's capabilities. They actually believed our technology was that superior. My perception that was completely wrong is that all the locals hate you and they want to try and kill you 24/7. As I stated, that is completely wrong, and it was the opposite of that. The local Afghan population, and ironically the Taliban, were extremely nice to us. They would rather have us there than the Taliban. Where I was stationed was the heroin capital of Afghanistan. I actually believe in the world as well. We were also told that the majority of the Taliban were from this area as well. Because of this, a lot of them didn't want to fight in their own backyards. The locals were happy with us because we kept the peace and helped them out as much as we can in a combat environment. We actually brought an economic boost for them as well. The local shop owners loved us because we would always buy monsters, pop, cigarettes, and chips off of them. We would buy food off of other locals on a weekly basis. Oh yeah, that's another perception I had that was wrong. Those suckers can cook, and I mean cook. They had the best chicken and potatoes and made the best bread. As I stated already, the Taliban soldiers didn't have a problem with us either. There are many times we would hear that the higher up Taliban leaders would call the local guys and flip the frick out on them because they aren't trying to kill us, and the local dudes would just be like, hey man, we're good. They are good. They aren't doing anything to harm us. We just want to chill. They will be gone sooner or later. I'm not joking you. That's how their conversations went. There would even be times that the Taliban were forced to do their job that they would have other local people place the IEDs and make them so freaking obvious. Like textbook IED laying so we can see it from a mile away so none of us would get hurt and they can pass it on and say they did their job. This was great to write. Thank you for asking. It's pretty rare that someone asks you anything about being in Afghanistan other than did you kill anyone. It's nice to talk about it. Was in the Tangi Valley and we had 2 of our 4 of HMMWVs broke in the middle of a town. The whole village male population came out to help us dig out our vehicles. Talking like 100-200 people who were digging and crap. Right next to us and with us. Sun went down and it started to snow. Everyone left. We got attacked that night. The villagers didn't want us there. Not because they hated us, but because they knew their mud huts were about to get fricked up in the attack that would happen that night. Christmas Eve, I think 2010. Soldiers tend to train for fighting at sub 500 meters. At least I always had. Not being able to see the enemy wasn't completely out of the norm for training, but they were usually within the effective range of our small arms. Come to Afghanistan and we were getting fired at by invisible enemies on the side of mountains a kilometer and away. We hardly knew we were getting engaged, let alone went into contact drills. When I was told I was going to Afghanistan, I was picturing mountains and all that stuff they have in the eastern part of the country. I went to southern Afghanistan. It's mostly desert, but around the rivers it's a freaking jungle. I spent many patrols wading through knee to waist deep water and mud in pomegranate and grape orchards. Most of my training leading up to deploying to Afghanistan had been geared towards urban operations and convoy operations. What I ended up doing was small, squad-sized dismounted patrols through rough terrain. Also didn't expect to be as close to the enemy as we usually were. Usually less than 50 meters was our engagement distance. That is interesting. All the Canadian soldiers I have talked to, I am Canadian, have said they rarely even saw the enemy. That must have been nuts. Their concept of food. In their culture, if anyone had food they were to share it with everyone around them. This is even if you only have enough for one person to have a snack. It was almost as if they didn't believe food could be owned by a person. Some of the Afghans I worked with would be offended if I ate anything and didn't offer them some. I guess also that I would actually be working with some Afghans. I didn't expect that to be a thing. I saw this everywhere in developing countries. People who have nothing offering everything they have. To me, it's a sense of community that we have long lost. That Afghanistan was an actual country, it's only so on a map. The people, in some of the more rural places, at least, have no concept of Afghanistan. We were in a village in northern Kandahar province, talking to some people who of course had no idea who we were or why we were there. This was in 2004. Not only had they not heard about 9/11, they hadn't heard Americans had come over. Talking to them further, they hadn't heard about that one time the Russians were in Afghanistan either. We then asked if they knew where the city of Kandahar was, which is a rather large and important city some 30 miles to the south. They'd heard of it, but no one had ever been there, and they didn't know when it was. For them, there was no Afghanistan. The concept just didn't exist. Man, I had some guy think we were still the Russians. LOL. Oh, also about the fighting we did. I had in my mind that it would be these organized ambushes against a somewhat organized force. It may have been like that for the push, Marja, but once the initial defense was scattered, the fighting turned into some farmer getting paid a year's salary to go fire an AK-47 at our patrol as we walked by. I mean, no wonder there was so much PTSD going around. It doesn't feel okay when you killed some farmer for trying to feed his kids or save his family from torture that next night. It feels like crap actually. That we would be fighting the Taliban. The majority of people we managed to detain had been coerced into shooting at us by the Mujahideen, which is made up of all sorts of people who had kidnapped or threatened their family. The most glaring example of this was when our free on board, forward operating base was attacked by a massive VBIED truck bomb that blew a hole in our wall. Suicide bombers ran into the free on board through the hole and blew themselves up in our bunkers. Every single one of them had their hands tied and remote detonation receivers, so they couldn't back out. Holy heck, you don't hear about that on the news. It really puts things in perspective. That everyone was going to be dirty and poor like in those help a poor starving child commercials. I remember being really surprised to see kids running around playing in dirt roads and everyone was clean. No dirt smudges on their face or anything. Also there were these two little girls with the most unbelievably white dresses I have ever seen standing by the side of the road watching our convoy roll by. Very surreal. Deployed in 2011, my misconception was that we were going to help the Afghans have better lives. Like user Tanner said on here, most of them just wanted to be left alone and didn't care at all about whether they had democracy or the Taliban. We would do anything we could to get people to talk to us and give us any information on the Taliban and Haqqani. Most said nothing, but some were honest. Look, what good will it do me to talk to you? You will leave soon. They will still be here. What are you going to do for me? My brother was kidnapped last week. Have any Americans been doing anything about that? Can you protect me and my family if something happens to us? Can I count on you? Of course, we would try to sound positive and helpful without making promises, and try to act like of course, we are here to help you, but protecting Afghan civilians was not the priority. Not that we would intentionally endanger them, but we would never go out of our way just to save or protect a local. Force protection is the name of the game. And I get it, it's the military, not a humanitarian NGO. Certain missions take priority, and you can't risk lives needlessly. I just thought that we might have put more effort into winning trust. There was this police chief in our AO, police chief in name only. He was effectively a warlord, who was fighting the Haqqanis because they killed his son-in-law. He literally told us if he didn't have them to fight he would fight the Americans just because we were there. I thought that interesting. That it was really a war. It's just people sustaining other people, with a lot of nothing actually getting done. As someone who was a gunner for most of my tour, we mainly did transportation missions from Kabul to the eastern province. We never saw any action, and to this day I thank God for that. The fact that a lot of my time outside of convoys was spent either sleeping, eating, or gaming surprised me, I suppose, but in the end, we're just there to provide presents, and not expected to actually accomplish anything. The amount of awards given out back in Kabul for people simply hitting a high quota of maintenance repairs threw me off too. There were times when I was looked down upon for not working every day in a shop and instead being on convoys. The worst part of it all was losing a friend to suicide after returning home safe. That was something I never expected to see happen, and it still messes with me to this day. I've been to 11 other countries during my 5 years in the Marines. Went there expecting the people to be chanting for our death and plotting nefarious acts of villainy all the time. Which, certainly, there are a few out there. For the most part though, people the world over are the same with minor outliers. Afghanis are not an exception here. They mostly just want to be left alone, tend their land and their family. They are almost exactly the same as anyone who grew up in the deep south, just a different flavor of religion. Most interesting to me is how their history is passed down each generation. It's all word of mouth, for generation after generation, and largely focused on the wars they fought. The end result is you'll have elders in the mountains who'll swear that their great-great-grandfather fought against Alexander the Great. For the most part though, people the world over are the same with minor outliers. I wish more people actually understood this. That they had any idea why we were there. We'd ask them if they knew what 9/11 was, and they had no idea. We'd show them pictures of the WTC on fire after the planes hit, and ask them what it was. Their response was usually that it was a picture of a building the US bombed in Kabul, their capital. Kind of mind-blowing that they're being occupied by a foreign military force and have no idea why. I remember reading about the $1 million reward originally offered for Bin Laden. They asked Afghan farmers what they'd do with that much money. Most couldn't even understand the concept, and the ones who did wanted simple things like 2 goats or a balloon for their daughter. I served in both Iraq and Afghanistan. 2 BCT, 101st Airborne 2004 to 2009. One preconception I had prior to arriving was that the whole country was a crap hole. Afghanistan had some of the most beautiful landscapes and views I have ever had the pleasure of enjoying. The people there are simple, farming and hunting gathering type folk, and when introduced to money they became extremely selfish. Alright, so after 8 my first duty station was Qatar. I got there in the middle of the night, got picked up and got a room. The next day I started in processing and met with my new CO and 1SG, which is when I get informed that I won't be staying in Qatar. Instead, I will be going to Afghanistan. So there I am, 20 years old in Qatar. I don't know anyone and all I have is my uniforms and personal belongings. Getting told I'm going to Afghanistan the next day. I got my Ach and Iba that day, but was told I would get the rest of my gear including my weapon in Afghanistan. I was absolutely terrified. I was expecting crap like you see on TV where the Taliban is constantly attacking and shooting at you. I got to Bagram and it's a huge freaking airfield. Calm as can be. There are stores and restaurants and civilians everywhere and nobody gives a frick. I get to Kabul and it's the same thing. There were kids playing soccer right outside the Kabul airport, though the airport has since become more secure. I got a custom tailored suit there and even went back as a contractor after I finished my 4 years. Afghanistan was not nearly as terrifying as I thought. Kabul looked like a war-torn and impoverished featuring Collins Company. There were apartment complexes, restaurants, billboards for colleges, trucking companies, etc. Most of the LNs didn't give a frick about the war, they gave a frick about providing for themselves. However bad you think the terrain might be, it's worse. We are talking mountains, like the Rocky Mountains type terrain. Imagine trying to go to the Rockies and fight the indigenous people there. Now add on top of that the fact that you are a foreigner who doesn't know their language, customs, traditions, or jack crap about them. Now try to win their hearts and minds. Another part is how amazing the views are. The world truly is missing out on Afghanistan's beauty. It's shocking how pure and beautiful the landscape is. They have a serious tourism goldmine they are sitting on. I'm talking about Maine, the north and east of the country. Frick the south, it's just bad all around. You hear so much about how different Afghans and Afghani culture is before you go that you forget that they're just people too. The kids especially. Kids everywhere are pretty much the same. I don't feel too bad about leaving the crappy, lazy AMF guys to their fate, but I still wonder about the little kids I used to watch play from our guard tower. Soldiers of Reddit, what is something you wish you had known before joining the military? I wish I had known how important my hearing was. I've never been to prison, but crap, I have to imagine that deployments are dang near close to it. Bored out of your freaking mind, getting swole at the makeshift, outside gym, counting down the days, surrounded by dudes, and every now and then, some butthole tries to kill you. Excellent analogy. Don't forget, very occasionally getting to call your family on a crappy connection. Should have done ROTC and finished up college instead of enlisting. Fellow women military people will back this up. See civilian gynecologists. All military people will back this one up. See civilian dentists. Know that when you join, your life is owned by the government. It's fairly obvious, but when you actually experience it, it can be pretty surreal. Doesn't matter what you want, all that matters is what the government wants from you. My old man was terminally ill and trying to get home was a nightmare. If I had been a civilian, I could have just quit. I have had a good career with the military. I'm releasing in the next few months because this has started to really bother me. Don't trust to everything your recruiter tells you. Look up info on your own and bounce questions off of them. I did and got stuck as a laundry specialist for 4 years. Oh, and color vision can affect the jobs you can get in the military. Let me give some more details on my story. I wanted to join the army to do cool army crap. Plain and simple. I was a junior in high school when a recruiter called out of the blue and told me about the split option. The split option meant I could go to basic during the summer and come back and finish up high school. Only thing was that I had to join the reserves and pick a non-combat MOS. The recruiter told me I could change my whole contract after I got back from basic. That was the lie. So I signed up for any old MOS, which ended up being a 92S. Shower, laundry, and clothing repair specialist. So I go off to Fort Sill for the summer. When I got back, I went back to the recruiter station. My original recruiter moved on to his next duty station, and when I asked about changing my contract, I was told I had to wait until I was 18. A few months go by. I'm an adult. I go back. Rules change. I have to wait 2 years. So I go to 8 and become a 92S and report to my unit. I ask about changing my MOS and get no help from the crap bag full-timers. So I was stuck as a Stitch B for 4 years until a sister unit let me join them and reclass to deploy with them. Now as for color vision, I found out I was red-green colorblind when I went through MEPS and thought nothing of it. Mistake on my part. I learned later that due to my colorblindness, I was unable to do all that cool army crap that I originally wanted to do. So no combat MOS, no specialty schools, no fricking nothing. I never did a single fricking thing I wanted to do in the army. It ended up being a big waste of time. I'm going to stop typing because I'm making myself angry. Just do me a favor. If you're considering joining the military, remember my mistakes and don't get frick yourself over. Don't get that dumbass skull with a beret tattoo. Or an anchor. Most of sniper school involves a lot of math. There's nothing glamorous about being B4. Most of the time you're waiting around in the heat. It's nothing like the movies. All the people in books that say they can remember the faces of everyone they've shot are full of crap. The big one. Not only can you not smoke, you can't use tobacco in any form. Good luck if you're another nicotine addict. The maths in sniper school makes it sound awesome. I wish I had joined the fricking Air Force. Sailor here. I too wish I joined the Air Force. 5th, don't be afraid to volunteer for cool missions and opportunities. Being able to control some aspects of your career feels pretty awesome. Search around, go on forums, check opportunities, network, etc. Okay, volunteer for nothing. Especially if they are looking for volunteers for a course that on the surface sounds amazing. But when you look around, you are the only one with your hand up and suddenly you are cleaning some crap for someone else. Okay, wait, help. Accountability. If you're sick, you notify your fire team leader or squad leader. If you don't, not only do you get in trouble, you get their ass in trouble, which in turn will get you in more trouble. In addition, save every bit of info you're given, because it may one day save you ass. It could be a signature for an order, acknowledging you're sick, anything that would you might get questioned for doing something or not being somewhere. How very likely you are to get irrevocably hurt doing the things you do every day. That's how most people get hurt. In fact, for me it was PT. I've had a knee repair, a shoulder repair, stress fractures, a hideous staph infection. The list goes on. Danish Army. How civilian life feels after. Don't get me wrong, civilian is a ton easier than what I ever had to go through in the army, but no one ever taught me how to readjust back to how everyone else are. But when you're in the army, you become mentally adjusted to a way of life, and while that way of life might be very challenging, you almost always know what it brings, or you are trained how to meet any eventualities. No one ever trains you how to meet life. No one can do that. The army manages to put a very structured personality into you, and then when you get out a few years after, no one else follows that structure. I still remember a day 7 years ago at business school, during a group 72-hour exam where we'd all agreed on stuff to do during the night. Now it was 2 AM, and we were to meet at 7 AM, but when we met again at 7:16, I was really peed by 16-minute delay. I really couldn't understand the guy when he told me that he was too tired to do it and just wanted to cuddle with his girlfriend. He might as well have said those words in Chinese to me. I literally didn't understand the guy. My mind had been so adjusted to that everyone around always would do what they were told, or they would tell me that it would not be possible before that. I had gotten so used to every person not working the same way as me that I forgot it. That if they would be tired, they would tell me immediately, not tell me embarrassed later. This is a pain. When I got my first job outside the military, I was always 15 minutes early, because that's being on time. Then my boss wrote me up for trying to ride the clock by showing up early. Never mind that I was getting turnover, gathering supplies, all the piddly crap you have to do to get ready to actually work. First, save every scrap of paper that you receive. Make a binder that includes copies of all your orders, certificates, important documents, evaluation reports, medical information, etc. Have copies of everything. It seems like overkill, but paperwork goes missing all the time. Second, if you are sick, go to sick call. If you get paperwork from the doctor, keep a copy in your binder. If you get hurt, go to sick call. If it is severe, make sure you get line of duty paperwork. Each small injury might not seem like a big deal, but after a few years, they add up. You don't want to be 30 years old with the joints of a 60-year-old and no paperwork to back up your history. Third, if you need mental health treatment, go to mental health. Stop caring about what other people say. If you need help, go get it. Fourth, speak up for yourself. Be your own advocate. Not everyone has your best interest in mind. If you don't think something is right, voice your opinion professionally. Fifth, don't be afraid to volunteer for cool missions and opportunities. Being able to control some aspects of your career feels pretty awesome. Search around, go on forums, check opportunities, network, etc. Sixth, go to school. Actual school. Don't let the military convince you that University of Phoenix is your end goal. Do whatever you want to do so you have skills when you leave the service. Use your GI Bill. If you're offered a special school, take IT, especially if you are just coming out of 8. My biggest regret is that at the end of 8 a couple NCOs came into our living area and said we've got 10 slots for airborne and air assault. If you want one, the other, or both raise your hand now and you'll be on the list. Told myself at the time that I'd go later when I was in better shape, or whatever I told myself. I freaking hate myself because ever since then it's either been the unit doesn't have money for it, or I procrastinated any chances away. Don't do that to yourself. Keep your training environment mentality and get the schools done while you still have that mentality, because once you're out of that mentality, it's dang hard to get or want to be back in it. Save all paperwork. Save your goddamn money. Do not go out and buy a new car. Do not fricking do IT. You're not special. The car salesman is going to frick you over just like everyone before you. Save your first couple paychecks. Get a beta, and save the crap out of your money. I've seen guys save for 4 years and have enough to buy their dream car in cash. Watched an E5 buy the new Corvette Stingray as soon as it hit the market, with cash. He told us all that he had been saving for the past 5 years. It's not about cars though, it's about your future. Eventually you won't be army anymore. You gonna be like some of us dumbasses and be in debt looking for whatever job you can get just to make ends meet, and go to school. Frick what anyone tells you. Go get signed up for classes. Do online. Don't bother with classroom, as mission will dictate whether you get to make it to that class. Try telling 1SG you can't go to the field because you got class. So take as many online courses as you can. Shoot for a degree of any kind, preferably one you want. You'll be leagues ahead of everyone else. Finally, get seen for anything medical. Keep the paperwork. If you see combat, especially real combat. Not a day of your life will go by from there on where you don't think about it. It will go away when you're busy or preoccupied. But when you're just sitting there, lost in your own thoughts, your mind will be back on the battlefield. It's draining. The dog and pony shows. My god. I absolutely love pressure washing fricking sidewalks all day because a general I've never heard of is coming to visit my base for a week. The military is unrivaled at creating and fostering leadership. Unfortunately, most of the best leaders can do some basic math, realize how valuable they are in the civilian world, and hightail it out as soon as they can. On a more positive note, it still blows my mind that I am entrusted with the beating heart of a billion-dollar warship, and that drive the thing like you stole it is the normally encouraged mindset to have while doing so. I highly doubt that I will ever do something this cool once I get out. How much it sucked digging holes in the forests during a storm. How to save money. That I would go to Iraq 3 times, then 10 years later we see ISIS is in charge. What a freaking waste of money and people's lives. If anybody tries to take the M&Ms that the MRE gods have so graciously bestowed upon you, you kick that mother in his throat. A lot of posts about the other 4 branches of the US Armed Forces, but no one mentioning the Coast Guard. Great duty stations, great missions, always operating in some capacity, whether search and rescue, law enforcement, pollution response, etc. I was in the army and I always advise people to consider the Coast Guard. 1. Save all documents you get. Do not count on the military to save your stuff because they will lose it. 2. Don't volunteer for crap even if it sounds cool. I made that mistake once. Thought it'd be great to get off base to deliver some vehicles a few hours away. Turns out someone picked the wrong vehicles and it turned out to be a 12+ hour day. 3. Call of Duty wasn't around when I joined, but so many folks joining the military think it will be like COD. It's not. You will clean shitters, dishes, and after others. 4. Join an aviation unit. The most fun I had was in an aviation unit. Forget driving, we're flying. Pilots for the most part just want to fly and are pretty chill from my experience. That if you deploy there's a good chance your marriage will fail and your soul will leave you. 2 things. From a former 19 Delta Cav Scout. 1. Recruiter equals liar. If it's not in your contract you're fricked. I dang near maxed out my ADSVAB and could have had any job I wanted. Similarly, I could have had choice of duty station and or airborne. My recruiter told me all of that would happen after basic. Half of my guys from basic got one or both. Those that didn't got lied to. The recruiters are under tremendous pressure to get you in. Your interests are secondary. 2. I grew up poor without healthcare. Every dentist I ever went to said that I badly needed braces. Every single army dentist orthodontist said that my teeth were fine and didn't need braces. Military medicine is not as good or comprehensive as civilian medicine. You get the minimum. I am glad I joined and served overall though. You can learn to live with PTSD much of the time, but no one can help you forgive yourself for who you've been or what you've done, except yourself. When you're out, you can get help, but you have got to be the one that takes the opportunity. Help doesn't come in 12 ounces bottles or pint glasses. Remember, it normally doesn't build up all at once. The cure doesn't happen all at once. Serious Redditors who have experience in military combat, what things depicted in action movies and games are not true in real life? Nothing I've seen in movies is like the combat I experienced, except one thing. The first 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan gets one thing right. Bullet noise, not the shot, a bullet passing close by. It has weight like a piece of incredibly long, thin rebar just appearing out of nowhere right beside you. Gets your undivided attention. Frick, the guy who got that right drove me right out of the theater. The temporary shell shock parts were good too from a sound perspective, except for the fact that in the movie they were temporary. I roll everything sounds like you have saran wrap over your ears. Death isn't always a quick process. It can take more time than the length of any movie out there. Combat medic here. Unfortunately, I can confirm this to be true. Currently in the Royal Air Force, mainly the thing they, for obvious reasons, leave out in the movies is the sheer length of time you could be coming under contact for. I've spoken to a lot of regiment guys who have been on tours to Iraq and Afghan for around 5 years of their life, and coming under contact with the enemy can be seriously psychologically demanding. You could be having to wait out oncoming mortar fire for hours on end, literally non-stop shells that can be meters away from you, and all you can really do is take cover and keep your body to the floor behind shelter in a bunker. Crap is not fun. Same sort of thing with firefights really. I was in Armored Corps and I was going to say something along those lines. The amount of time spent sitting in cover is beyond exhausting. That is a direct order. No crap. All orders are freaking direct orders. There was never a dynamic where my leadership had to tell me they were serious. So quit playing LOL. None of Hollywood is true in real life. Military combat is boring, monotonous, mixed with seconds of adrenaline. Your weapons jam. You're hungry, tired and sleepy. The gear is heavy and burdensome. It looks cool on television, but it's fake. Source: USMC veteran. War is 99% boredom and 1% sheer terror. I used to live with an army ranger who described being in combat as absolutely terrifying, but only afterwards. In the heat of combat he would default to his training, but only realize how fricked up and scary things were after it was all over. He also said he was cold and hungry a lot, and he would have paid $1 million for a slice of cherry pie. The enemy doesn't always just die. I've seen enemy combatants take more damage than you could possibly imagine and keep going. I've seen them pass out on the field and wake back up to fight some more. Magazine changes whilst moving are freaking tricky. Well, if you wanna keep the empty one anyway, nobody in movies seems concerned with keeping them. When contact is made, combatants from both sides fire a ton of ammunition and don't hit very much. A wounded soldier is a subjective term. I've seen a soldier with 9 gunshot wounds be fully conscious and smoking a cigarette. I've seen a soldier with a very minor shoulder wound go into shock and nearly die. Most of the soldiers who appear very tough and talk about wanting to be in combat all the time don't do very well in an actual combat situation. The clear thinkers are usually the quiet guys. Female soldiers can be a force to be reckoned with. A lot of soldiers are actually hesitant to engage the enemy. When it actually comes time to fire on enemy combatants, there's still something there inside of us that has to be overridden in spite of the training and the situation. One of the most difficult things about being in a combat situation is that you can't hear a goddamn thing. No one is wearing hearing protection and your ears are ringing like crazy. Communication can be very difficult. Noise. Firing handguns and firearms inside is really quite distressing on the ears. The number of actions movies where it's no big deal, and they fire round after round without flinching in a confined space is pretty unrealistic. As an R-64D Apache helicopter crew chief, the entirety of the Nicolas Cage movie Firebirds, I feel like Neil deGrasse Tyson watching Gravity when I see that flick. I don't think anyone can point out anything accurate about Firebirds, other than those are indeed helicopters. In the most intense battle it can be total chaos. The only thing that gives an edge is the constant practice of contact drills etc in your initial training and general day-to-day squad, section, platoon and company training. Communication is one of the most effective winners of a battle, whether it's sign, radio or sheer brute voice. Though often the latter doesn't work except to get some attention from an enemy rifleman. Gunshots aren't constant, they are intermittent, and the most random peaceful things will occur smack bang in the middle of a battle, like being offered a cup of tea. Most grenades don't go up in a fireball, you really have to tinker with cars to make them blow up. Weapons jam reasonably frequently, though if you clean to the right environmental conditions you'll usually be fine. Initiative and smallest angles of fire will often have bigger outcomes than you originally thought. Most battles occur over significant distance 300-800 meters. Urban warfare is usually incredibly slow and then amazingly fast. This is obviously subject to numerous variables. If you are shot most people don't notice in the initial milliseconds following, and most of the toughest guys are the ones who mentally process stuff well. There can be a significant amount of downtime, but that's to compensate for the full-on moments. Despite all the training, science shows that only less than 20% of soldiers will actually fire directly into another combatant unless that combatant is directly threatening them or a friend. I found the HBO series Generation Kill to be the most accurate portrayal of war. I did 2 tours both year-long in Iraq. Agreed. It's the perfect balance of dicking around during firefights and getting crap done, along with the platoon dynamics and individual characters. There are no back-to-back headshots and people don't die right away. During initial contact you want to gain fire superiority. You don't have to kill the guy, just get their heads down so you can move to cover or flank. Also it is very loud, i.e. we got in a firefight inside a building and I couldn't even hear the guy next to me shouting out orders. My ears rang for 2 weeks after. It can also be a lot of boredom sitting on guard for hours at a time staring at the same area for days, weeks, even months. Grenades don't cause huge balls of fire when they explode. Cause don't blow up anything like in movies or games. People don't go flying back when shot. Knife kills are not a real thing. Most of all you don't respawn or sit and magically heal. I would say that knife kills are rare, not common, not a real thing. A guy in my unit has 2 knife kills defending himself from an insurgent attack on his free on board. In no way was it planned. It just kinda happened. Parachute infantrymen Iraq 07 and 09. Cause are really resilient. We've had a 240, 249, M4W 203 rounds, and a Barrett pumping rounds into that mother and he just kept going. He died of blood loss later in the hospital, but naive 19-year-old me thought it was going to be a lot different. Maybe with fire and whatever. Nope. M203 rounds are really weak, and don't blow up with fire or anything. Just kicks up dust and makes loud noise. Nobody gets confirmed kills. It's extremely rare and almost always reserved for a good sniper section on special missions. Most people that tell you they got this or that are most likely lying. It makes you go insane. While you're there you can't wait to come home, and then once you come back you miss being deployed. Regular civilian life is actually harder to deal with. In the military everything is provided for you, even the mental support of your fellow soldier. Then once you come back it all disappears and you feel alienated from society. No one knows what you've been through. Then after a while you start to forget and carry on with life. Go to college when you're 25 with a bunch of 18-year-olds that you can't really identify with. And then you start a job and hopefully find a few friends that you can. It all gets better with time. Real PTSD is the worst. The kind where when you hear a helicopter you start to cry uncontrollably because you've seen so many mangled bodies come off them. The thing that's weird is that while you're over there nothing phases you, it's just a job, and training muscle memory kicks in. This only from personal experience. Not everyone is the same but we are all human and real war takes a toll on everyone. I haven't played a game that has depicted war correctly. A movie though, Lone Survivor, and Das Boot is pretty accurate. Both are movies of what happens when everything goes bad. Confusion for 1. You rarely know where the guy until they expose themselves to fire shots at you. Training kicks in, meaning you work well together doing complex things without direction. Movements and other orders have been trained on, so everyone knows what their role is. There is a real phenomenon called bullet time. What seemed like 12-20 minutes of an engagement was really 5-7 minutes. Your overall mission and procedures for combat are different for each unit. Your orders could be return fire and exit the area if under attack, or engage and defeat the enemy. The randomness of it, while you extensively train for scenarios, reality is extremely random. The terrain, weather, you're in their position, size of your force, size of enemy force, capabilities of equipment, and ferocity of both your force and theirs are just some examples. The largest thing not depicted to me is the intelligence or lack thereof. That is information of the battle space, location of where you and friendlies are, overall objective, tasks, enemy intelligence, etc. You have an understanding that your unit is like one of many pins holding a gear that is a part of an engine that is a part of a bulldozer that is a machine a part of a construction site. 1/327 in 101st ABN, Kunar Province. I've been through the Karengal Valley, featured in Restrepo, the Shirayak Valley, featured in Lone Survivor, Watapa Valley, and many other crevices in that mountainous hexscape that is eastern Afghanistan. Beautiful countryside though. One of my favorite things to do is watch action movies and tear them to pieces. Mother suckers don't even know one battle drill. Anyways, things that annoy me. Mother suckers not seeking cover. Why the frick are you standing in a doorway while someone is firing on you? The lack of ammo supply awareness. If you run out of bullets before the bad guy, life's going to suck. And by the way, every 100 rounds of 7.62 is about 7 pounds. Crap gets heavy real fast. Gear is heavy, cumbersome, and a B to keep quiet. Velcro pockets. Are you kidding me? The sense of confusion. Oftentimes, you're fired upon first. There's usually a couple seconds of where the frick did that come from until someone eventually shouts out where it's coming from and how far. By this time you should have sought cover behind a solid object, or you're sprawled out prone and as low to ground as possible if there is none currently. Which brings me to my next point. All those sweet hiding spots and perfectly placed cover in video games and movies don't fricking exist. The smart Taliban would wait until access to cover was limited or you were awkwardly situated, then fire on you. Also, any Taliban fighter worth a W penny knew to put plenty of open space between us and them so we couldn't get close without having to bound through a field, large terraces, down a freaking mountain and up another one, etc. The ones that rarely didn't suffered greatly. I mean, they all usually did. We have Apache attack helicopters for frick's sake. It's freaking loud. Gun smoke and other smoke gets in your eyes and it's all you can smell. It's an assault to the senses and you have to ignore it. I don't feel like that's ever depicted enough. Weapons jam every now and then, and it's sometimes a real B to fix a weapon malfunction. But it does happen. Firing from a fixed position isn't ideal. It gives your opponent the chance to maneuver on you. I suggest you maneuver also. There were times when firefights went on for hours, but that was rare. Air support would usually deter long firefights, but they weren't always available. So it's not anything like constant action. It was usually sparse and lasting only a few minutes when it did happen. Patience was key. If you ever think you can be a one-man army, you're an ignorant crap. The first person to win in a fight is the man whose battle buddy shows up first. 3 of my battle buddies for every 1 of your battle buddies is usually prime conditions. Vietnam veteran here. Something that can never be captured on film or in a game. The smell of death. There are a lot of great answers. Here are a couple things I'd add. From my experience in southern Afghanistan, where the OEF rules of engagement were pretty restrictive, the constant anticipation of that first shot coming in was incredibly unnerving, even though it got a little more lax toward the end, due to experience and the just another day attitude, not because it was any less dangerous. I remember how instantaneous either hitting the ground or finding cover is. Everyone freezes up given the right situation. Whether it be rounds impacting within inches of your face or hearing "I'm hit." Luckily, this usually lasts a couple seconds at most before getting back to the task at hand or taking the proper steps given the situation. The noise of it all was mentioned earlier. I'd just add that everyone is yelling as well, at least at first. In many environments, the direction of shots that are fired is hard to locate, especially when you add the panic and urge to find cover. So you have guys yelling out direction, distance, number of combatants, weapons jams, etc. It's a combination of ringing, weapons firing, people yelling, and any other noises, the dull mumble of the radio, any grenades, yada yada. Myth. You're shooting that truck while the good guy is crawling through it. He heroically makes it through the back with lots of holes above and around him. Reality. The tracers immediately catch the interior on fire and he is coughing and hacking on white phosphorus that is burning him alive. If that doesn't kill him pretty quickly, then the spall and bullet fragments impacting from the outside will. Myth. Men fly up in the air when shot. Reality. Dudes just fall down like they tripped. Myth. Contact is always a heroic endeavor. Reality. Getting shot at is surreal until it's scary as frick. Driving around is boring until you are dead from the bomb buried in the road that you'll never even see. Myth. Going to war is fun. Reality. It's boring until you're dead or you don't want to be there anymore. It's always at the inopportune moments when you are crapping or spacing out thinking about home that you get hit and have to do something about it. Source. MI Weenie attached to an MPBN with a psycho for BN commander. Soldiers of Reddit. What are things that the military doesn't provide that would be good for people to send in care packages? My parents sent me a box just absolutely stuffed of snack-sized experimental tacky flavors. Best thing I ever got. Next was a generic note from a 3rd grader named Nigel, said "I hope you can see your family again." Kinda murdery, but the intent was good. Everyone in the squad got a laugh. Make sure your care package isn't for someone in training. They might not be allowed to use those products. My aunt sent me fuzzy pajamas and a box of chocolates to boot camp. She could not understand why I got in trouble for them and had to throw them away. I turned 40 while deployed and received a care package from my wife that had a fully inflated mylar balloon, which I thought was pretty dang nifty and creative. The box had other stuff in it too, so it wasn't suspiciously light, yet when I sliced it open, thank God I didn't slice through to the balloon. Up floated the colorful happy 40th balloon. Made my week. Socks. I used to do a lot of foot patrols in Afghanistan. We never had a way of buying socks and we sure as heck rarely got to send anything to be washed. Most of the time we just chucked the socks after patrol from walking in crap water anyway. I wonder how long this will be the top answer. My grandmother had letters from my grandfather and his buddies thanking her for the socks she knit them and asking for more, from the 1940s. Whatever you send, please do not pack any soap or detergent in the same box as food. We got some really big boxes that had packages of detergent and lots of candy, and all of the candy tasted like Tide. My father-in-law made me a few lbs of deer jerky long ago. The wife added a few bars of dial to the flat rate box and ruined every bite. I still ate it. I regret nothing. My parents sent me a care package full of cheap toys once. Dart guns, noisemakers, little toy army men, a small etch-a-sketch, etc. We all played with the toys for a day or so and it was entertaining. And afterwards we gave all the toys to local kids who enjoyed the heck out of them. Saw a kid 3 weeks later who made the etch-a-sketch into a weird necklace. Looked a little like a third world version of Flavor Flav. Kinda made me feel like not all is bad in the world. Condiments such as hot sauce. Food is not always bad, but it's very predictable. Hot sauce makes it much better. Just make sure you wrap the bottles really well. Postal centers overseas tend to just ignore fragile during the shipping and handling process. Also, the hotter the better. Daring each other to test the hottest sauces we can find is great entertainment. I've seen a few of these on here already, but I will reiterate for the important ones. Beef jerky, any kind of jerky, honestly. Tuna fish too. Sounds weird, I know. Sometimes that quick shot of salty, greasy fish will keep you going. It comes in single serving bags, way better in the field than cans. Hot sauce. One of the best care packages I ever had the pleasure of was nothing but 16 bottles of different types of hot sauce one of my buddies got and we all shared. Not joking. Seeing what was in that box when my buddy opened it is one of the best memories I have of the war. Baby wipes. When I was deployed I went out on a few extended missions, sometimes for a week or two. I took a shower in the field one time. Things have changed a lot in the last 14 years, but I loved getting DVDs. I don't know what the equivalent would be in 2020. Vizine. I discovered this too late for it to have been helpful for me. To this day I still occasionally have dreams where my mouth and nose and eyes are completely clogged with dry sand and no amount of me trying to get it out helps. My eyes at least would have loved me discovering Vizine long before I did. Magazines. The print kind, not the bullet holding kind. Anything from smut to housekeeping, it doesn't matter. National Geographic was my favorite, and it ages well. This was specific for me. I just wanted to share it. My girlfriend used to put a small note on anything she sent me. Message simple and sweet, and she'd leave a kiss and lipstick on it and spritz it with her perfume. I don't think I ever told her how much that meant to me, but dang, sometimes that really got me through. I still have some of those notes. This list is really good, but I would like to add underwear. Middle of a deployment, my underwear was worn out. My mom always talks about how besides her homemade beef jerky, that was something I always wanted. Socks like black socks for Navy, Marines green or whatever that color is. I DK about the other branches, but holy heck I am in boots all day 7 days a week for 7-9 months. Please for the love of God send me socks. Also hot sauce and ketchup. We're always out of ketchup and I'm sick of Texas Pete's. Thank you. Marines are coyote brown socks, green shirts. My all-time favorite was a church group where each contributor made a blanket representing their home state. I still have that blanket and no one, not even my girlfriend, is allowed to use it. It's draped over the back of my reading chair in the library. It's even been than a whoopee. Gatorade mix. On Navy ships we can get bottles of Gatorade, but it would be better to get Gatorade mix, and if it's there we can only get a 22-ounce can, not the 5-pound ones that would useful. If you really want to help soldiers or sailors, send 55-pound containers of Gatorade mix to a specific base or ship. I worked in the nuclear spaces on an aircraft carrier. It was assigned to a technical library on the ship when I was not on watch. There were 7 of us in there and we were drinking almost 3 gallons of water a day just to be able to pee. It was 115 degrees F in machinery species and even hotter in some areas of the reactor room. We were one of the few people in the world enduring the heat Gatorade was designed for. So send a lot of Gatorade mix. It means a huge difference in quality of life. I was a nuke as well. I always liked having anything to flavor the water at all. SF Kool-Aid, Crystal Light, Gatorade. The water seemed to always have too much chlorine and I always felt like I was guzzling pool water. Crayons. Marines need snacks. The best care package I ever got was just a massive amount of energy drinks, beef jerky, wet wipes, and sunflower seeds. My boy asked me to send chips and baby wipes when he was in Iraq and Afghanistan. Disney princess baby wipes were a big hit for his buddies. D. Beef jerky. One time I got a S'mores kit, coloring book, fake snow, bubbles lol, pumpkin spice related stuff, puzzle books, granola bars and stuff I couldn't get at the store, protein, pictures, decent coffee, candy, hair ties, hygiene related stuff I like that wasn't there, certain shampoo, body wash, deodorant, different types of trail mix, magazines. I think that's it. I enjoyed it all and no matter what I got it was the thought that always counted. I used to like getting Gatorade, magazines, comic books. Birthday, Mother's Day, Father's Day, etc cards, the nice ones. Q-tips, razors, baby wipes, soap, anything that can make water flavored. At first I thought the first things were supposed to be examples of things to flavor water and I was so confused. DD 214. For those who don't know what this means, like me, who googled it, the Defense Department issues to each veteran a DD 214, identifying the veteran's condition of discharge, honorable, general, other than honorable, dishonorable, or bad conduct. When I was in, popular stuff was the tuna packs that you can rip open. Cheez-Its were good. You eat plenty but it always seems like you're always working in a deficit, so sugar, any sweets, was pretty big too. Magazines you can read or interact with are always good. Any kind of jerky or hot sauce is good to have as well. My parents always sent hard candy to give out to the kids too. Cliff bars or energy bars seem to do good too. Someone sent us 2 rum cakes, wrapped in cellophane, still moist and delicious. That was a golden, sunlit moment amid a dreary and painful deployment. I know this is oddly specific, but my husband really liked the tactical field playing cards made by Bicycle when he was overseas. He said they held up really well and were basically weatherproof. Sunglasses were supposedly well received too. ETA. Thought of another one of his favorite things while deployed. Gold Bond. I once packed care packages for soldiers and there were a lot of games and puzzles including dice and playing cards that a casino donated. Send spicy ketchup from Whataburger, 386 ELRSCSS, Unit 61408, APO, A09855-1408. Supposedly peanut butter is coveted in the Canadian Forces. Source, Maj. General Romeo Dallaire in Shake Hands with the Devil. Peanut butter is coveted by all North Americans abroad. I have a friend that gets deployed a lot and the food out there sucks obviously. His requests are always tuna packs, the different flavored ones that come in the blue plastic packaging, dried fruit, Easy Mac, a set of silverware, homemade cookies, beef jerky, pudding, etc. Basically all the snack foods we take for granted. Not a soldier, but I sent canned pie filling and shortbread cookies. Together it's almost a pie, for Thanksgiving. All the cans made it and I was told it was well received. Back in Afghanistan, The poo pond. The best care package I received was a carton of cigarettes, baby wipes, about a month's worth, and protein bars. The worst? Well, let's just say having former members decide that 27 corn cobs sent to you in a box gift wrapped in graphic P leaves all of Kandahar laughing. Raining down 27 corn cobs on a fortified position will confuse an enemy long enough to take it. If any Americans would like to send the Brits a half-decent gun, it would be appreciated. We call our rifle the civil servant. It never works and you can't fricking fire it. Civil servant. It never works and you can't fricking fire it. I knew the L85 was crap, but that's hilarious. Y'all should do like France and go with the 416. AR platform is the way. Female veteran here. Books that aren't about war and killing. We had so many donations of Tom Clancy and ilk. What many of us wanted was a break from that life. Terry Pratchett and Dave Barry coming right up. Maple syrup. The knockoff they have in Kuwait is awful and called maple product. Beef jerky. Magazines, comics. Not allowed to have nudie mags in certain countries. Hard candies. Snacks in general. Cigars. Wet wipes. Hard drives full of movies or preloaded with video games. Our welfare tents have some of this stuff, but there is nothing better than opening a letter from someone saying they are thinking about you and getting spoiled with a bunch of snacks and cigars. Baby wipes, toothpaste, antiperspirant, and a stuffed animal. My husband says nuts, cashews, baby wipes, body spray, Oreos, canned cheese, peanut butter, Nutella X5, instant coffee packets, gum, Tylenol, 500 mg, headphones, razors, nicer ones, Q-tips, hot chocolate packets, Tootsie Rolls, hot sauce, drink mixes, fruit snacks. My husband was in a more remote location than some bases. Wet wipes, chewing tobacco, even if they don't chew. Giving this to people downrange, especially infantry, will make them best friends with everyone around them. A laptop with a portable hard drive full of movies, and TV shows. Wet wipes. Any type of food that won't melt. Cheez-Its. Energy drinks. A portable cell phone charger as they are allowed a phone. If no phones allowed, a prepaid phone card. Wet wipes. A spork. A lot of people are saying condiments, but I saw a lot of people getting condiments and it arriving spoiled and broken, spewing all over the place. If sending some, pack them into a separate smaller package inside that package, because the package handlers downrange don't give a frick about fragile. Please don't pack soap or any scented hygiene product with any food items. The food items will absorb the smell. It's hard to enjoy Irish spring cookies. One of the best care packages I ever received was a box full of handmade thank you cards from young kids. They were all very sweet, but some of them were downright hilarious. Had a good laugh with some of my buddies. I held onto those cards, and when I need a bit of inspiration sometimes, I look at the happy scribbles of some random first grader I never met. When I was overseas, we got Magic the Gathering card packs and I cherished the frick out of them. Not to set you up on an expensive care package item, but I was in dark place over there, and something like that brought me back for a solid couple of weeks. Good tampons. Dip, chewing tobacco, smokes, foot body powder, sunflower seeds, Jolly Ranchers, magazines, sunscreen, Gatorade powder flavor liquid for water. Depending on where they're deployed, I'd avoid sending chocolate. My in-laws sent me a tub of peanut butter cups from Trader Joe's, and by the time it got to me it was a melted block of wax paper, chocolate, and peanut butter. The tobacco items are good even if the service member doesn't smoke or dip, because you can use that stuff for trades. We had a tent in our area that was loaded with care package goods. If I received a package that had stuff I didn't plan on using, I'd put the items I didn't need in that tent for someone else who might need them. Band-aids. We got stuff to stop a bullet wound, but a paper cut and it's game over. Feminine products. Treats, candy, energy drinks, but never mix food and soap. The food often absorbs the soap fragrance and tastes terrible. Socks. All toiletries are a big welcome. Tylenol or ibuprofen. Stupid dollar store games. Witty cards sent by you. Oh, if you send treats, Oreos are a big hit. Vacuum sealed cookies too. I've seen the need for baby wipes to cease over time. Man, wipes are nice. I'm military, but not out on the field by any means. From what I have seen though, anything small and pre-packaged, like beef jerky or trail mix, is greatly appreciated. And energy drinks. We live off that crap. Especially the poor bastards maintaining planes and the even poorer bastards out in the field. Have a buddy that was Marines and mentioned how he basically ran on Rippets while he was deployed. Could believe it considering how many energy drinks he was always going through. There is a brand of nut powder called Monkey Butt. Mail a case of that crap over. Baby wipes, magazines, ramen, oatmeal, pretty much any soap and hygiene, holiday cards, black socks, lube and a pocket pee. I'm being dead serious. There is never anything to do when deployed. You haven't been late in months and you're surrounded by guys all the time. Taking a pocket pee to a shower is sometimes the only thing you have to look forward to for the day. You haven't been late in months. This is Reddit. Bro, I'm not so sure a lot of guys are gonna sympathize. Wet wipes, socks and underwear, letters from home. 1. Red Bull or Monsters. 2. Dip and cigarettes. 3. Baby wipes. 4. Candy. I preferred now and laters. Afghani kids loved them too. I kept a bag in my cargo pocket and hand some out if situation allowed. 5. Beef jerky or beef sticks. I always appreciated letters. They didn't even have to be from people I knew. Just letters from kids, or towns, or businesses or whatever saying, hey, thanks for the sacrifice. You're in our prayers, or something to that effect. There was not a lot of optimism on my last trip to Afghanistan, so anything with a positive message that pulled you out of the world for a little bit was welcome. Books not about war and the military were a treat, as well. You have been visited by the romantic doggo. Comment love is magic so you never fall in the friend zone. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.